Welcome back to Arc Tutorials. This is CSS full tutorial series for absolute beginners. In today's episode, we are going to learn about CSS pseudo classes. Extremely important. You can do and achieve a lot of things using pseudo classes. We'll learn all about it, but make sure that you have seen the previous episodes in the playlist in order to have continuity to your learning. Especially episode number 21, where we learned about the CSS combinators. That was in the last episode. We learned different combinators of how to using it. Today we are learning about CSS pseudo classes. A pseudo class is used to define a special state of an element. An HTML element can have different states like say active, link, visited, hover, first child, last child, nth child, focus, valid, invalid, first of type, not, read only, etc. Some of these don't apply to all the elements. Let's say like a link or a visited, right? Those things you can put it to an anchor tag, but you can't really put it to a div, right? It won't make sense. But you can always play the remaining ones, let's say first child, last child, nth child, etc. So let's go ahead do some hands-on. I'll continue doing it in the same file of where we used the combinators because it's mostly used with the combinators. Now in this case I have let's say I'll select this list, right, ULLI, and I want to target the fourth element, right, or the first element, last element, etc. So you can easily do that by adding the pseudo classes like this. You can say ULLI, right? Now you can say here what, right? So you can say first child should have the color blue. Okay. So what, now see, this is the pseudo class, which is also a combinator basically to select an element. I'm saying find a UL and LI inside that where is the which is the first child. Now if you go to that file, you can see here the first one is blue color. Just to make it more obvious, I'm going to add a little background color so you can see it clear. Okay, not sure if you can see that color, but let's add blue color. Yeah, so you can see the first list, list one is blue color font, text color, and background is light blue. That's the example of first child. Same way you can add for say last child, and you can add some more properties. This is especially helpful when you are doing pagination where you want the first element of certain style and last element should not have a border, etc. Right? So you can say ULLI should have border 2 pixel solid gray color, but the last one should not have the border. Okay, so there is border for everything. If I remove the background color, you can see that. Right, now this is first child, so I'm going to remove that. Now you see all have the border, and here I'm going to say border none. So see, the last child doesn't have the border now, right? So there are different combinations requiring on the design, but remember that you can use something like the pseudo classes. The first child we saw, the last child. Okay, now let's try some more examples. Now let's say nth child will give you the 12th, 6th, 7th on the same lines. Now you have a link will have multiple states that we can use and style. Say you have an href, and I'm going to call it Google, and let's give it a class name and say Google link. So now I'm going to style it, and I'm going to say dot Google link when visited should be color gray. Okay, so now see, by default it is blue color, but when I click it has now become gray color because the state is now visited. Similarly, you can use different, say you can say link, if it's a link, violet color, if it's linking to something, right? Or you can also say visited, or there are so many, you can not the not the double colon, but check only the ones which are single colon. Like you can check hover, right? If you say hover on it, it should become purple. You can see here now it is becoming purple. So similarly, there are so many of them. I cannot cover everything in detail, but these are the top ones that I will show you some of the things. For input we saw when type equal to text, right? So I'm going to add one more property, and I'm going to say input. For all the inputs, whenever it is active, the border should be 3 pixel solid dark blue. Now see, this is active, so it has become dark blue. This is red if it is not, right? So this is a classic example where you can use fork active, right? Similarly, you can use focus also with the other elements like say drop down, checkbox, text area. If you want to make something as valid or invalid, you can use valid or invalid if that particular thing is required or not, etc. Um, right? So those things, when you are doing form submit, you can use required or not. Those things you can add. You can also say read only. If it is read only, what should be? Let's say if I'm saying it's read only, and for the input I'm going to add, and I'm going to say read only, then should be uh, border. You can give some color, right? Brown, let's say. You can see here now this is read only, so it is all border, right? Or you can also put some background color and light color, grayish color, and say now you can see it's like disabled state, right? So the idea is, whatever be the element, you can add the different pseudo classes that are available. There are so many of them: active, link, visited, hover, first child, last child, nth child, focus, valid, invalid, hover, first of type, last of type, and much more. Okay, the best way, you cannot, if you cannot remember everything, you don't have to remember everything. Probably you should be knowing them. The good idea is, when you open up Visual Studio Code Editor, you will see options that comes up, right? So you can see here increment, left, link, matches, past, paused, read only, scope, start, target, valid, where. There are so many of them. Okay, I don't expect you to know everything at this point. As a beginner, as someone who is learning, if you learn only this top, say 10 12 that I've given, that should give you a good starting point to know how to apply the pseudo classes, right? So that's been said. Join me in the next episode. In the next episode we will learn about the pseudo elements, right? Like, that will be done with two colons. Okay, again, the concept is somewhat relatively similar, on the same lines, but gives different powerful functionality. We'll learn and master all about that in the next episode. Let's continue this learning. As always, if you have any questions, doubts, write to me in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you so much for joining. See you in the next episode.